Okay.
Welcome, everyone. Like usual, we're just going to give it a couple minutes before we get started. Hi to everyone who's just joining us. Like usual, we're going to give it a minute or two before we get started. Okay, I'm going to jump in because we have a lot of information to share with you today. So welcome to Japanese Paper, History, Export, and Challenges, a lecture by Takao Moriki. Before we get started, closed captioning is available. If you would like to turn on captions, navigate to the bottom of your Zoom screen, click the CC button, then click Show Subtitles. This is the final lecture in our Global Perspectives in Hand Papermaking series. The series has featured papermakers from around the world, exploring both historic and contemporary approaches to papermaking through talks by individuals with expertise in papermaking in Japan, Korea, India, Chile, and Spain. Among the topics discussed have been traditional fibers, tools, and papermaking techniques, as well as contemporary trends in production papermaking and artistic experimentation. Thank you to the Wingate Foundation for their generous support of this program. Today's speaker, Takao Moriki, is the third generation president of Moriki Paper Company, based in Tokyo, Japan. He specializes in the export of various types of Japanese papers known as washi. Takao has been working closely with many local paper makers across Japan to support the industry as well as to meet the needs of customers, such as conservators, artists, designers, craftspeople, and other creatives around the world. Moriki Paper Company was established in 1925 as a supplier of Japanese tissue paper called Tosa Tengujo and other Japanese papers, especially for overseas markets. The company started exporting directly to the USA in 1979 through ANW in New York and to the UK and West Germany in 1983. It supplies the largest selection of Japanese papers to over 40 countries. This lecture will cover a brief history of the Japanese papers exported to the West, the versatility of washi, and some of the challenges traditional Japanese paper makers and the industry are facing today. The talk will last about 45 minutes. If you have any questions, navigate to the bottom of your Zoom window and click the Q&A function. You can answer your questions, or sorry, put your questions in there. All of your questions will be answered in the last 10 to 15 minutes of the session. We'll answer them live. We may not have time to get to all of them, but we'll do our best. This webinar will be recorded and made available on our website and YouTube channel in a week or two. All previous webinars from the Global Perspectives in Hand Papermaking series are already publicly available and can be found on our YouTube channel and on our website. Thank you, Takao, for being with us here today. We're very happy to have you. I'm going to hand it off to you.
Okay, thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Takao Moriki, and it's great to be here today. Thank you, Vila and Tatiana and the team of the Dieudonné for giving me this opportunity. Okay, just gonna go through. Okay, I'm very happy to share with you a bit of my knowledge and experience of the Japanese paper, so-called washi, perhaps from different aspects as a paper supplier rather than a paper maker. Okay, this is a list of the topics which I'm going to talk about today. I hope you find them interesting and that you will learn something about Japanese paper by the end of my presentation. Here we go. First of all, let me just add a little bit about our company, Moriki Paper. We were established in 1925 in Yokohama by my granduncle, Yasumi Moriki, whose family was a paper maker in Kochi Prefecture in Japan. Shortly after he graduated from the school, he started working for a big paper mill in Kochi and was sent to Yokohama branch. However, the paper mill decided to discontinue all the handmade paper business, so he resigned and became independent in Yokohama, where still a lot of handmade paper was being exported. He had all the supports he needed from his suppliers and all the paper makers. But shortly after that, the World War II began and he had to stop the business. After the war ended and he returned from the Philippines, it took him some time to restart the business, but gradually the export of the paper got back on track. Many handmade fine art papers, thin Japanese tissue paper called tengujo for typewriting, and gampi paper for mimeograph printing were exported via trading companies in Japan until 1960s. During the presidency of my father, Shinji, our company started exporting directly rather than more fine art papers and machine-made papers to the US in the late 70s, and also Europe in the early 80s. We were one of the leading exporters for Japanese papers, especially on the eastern part of Japan. So I joined the company in the year 2000, so it's been 21 years. In the past 7 decades, from what I have seen, our company has been supplying various types of Japanese papers, but rather than the amount, the variety has become so much wider compared to my father's time. There are so many kinds of papers and applications now, like fine art, conservation, illustration, interior, crafts, stationery, and wrapping, and so on. Also, we do trade shows, participate in Conservation Congress, help organize events and demonstrations in overseas countries by bringing paper makers, and conducted a papermaking tour in Japan as well, by collaborating with one of our main partners, the Japanese paper place. Okay, that's all about us. And the next is, what is washi? So what is washi? Is it decorative masking tape? Is it handmade paper or machine-made paper, or both? Washi is a Japanese word that literally means Japanese paper. So wa is a Japanese word for Japanese, and shi is one of the words for paper. But the meaning of this word, washi, has changed so much after more than 100 years since the time when the word was created, by the fact that Western paper was brought into our country. But basically, it refers to the traditional papers that are made by renewable plant fibers by hand, virtually the same way that has been made for more than 1,400 years in our country. This is a Washi Map showing almost all the washi making prefectures in Japan. Sorry, it's written in Japanese. We basically deal with the paper makers in those places that are circled in red colors. It's just to give you the idea of how many different traditional paper making areas and its variety of papers there are still in Japan. Actually, many Japanese people do not know that there is no other country in the world making such a variety of papers still now. This is another Washi Map, which is a bit simpler, showing in English those paper making areas where we get our papers from. The chart on the right is showing some of the examples of different washi brands, which you might have heard before. When we talked about the specific type of washi in terms of the paper making areas, for example, the paper is made in Fukui Prefecture, then it's called Echizen Washi because Echizen is the old name for Fukui. There are normally both handmade and machine-made washi in each region. However, in this chart, Kurotani in Kyoto and Sekishu in Shimane have handmade washi only. So their industry as a Japanese papermaking is really small. Okay, let's move to the standard papermaking procedure. The method of making paper by hand is basically the same or very similar from one place to another. Kozo, Mitsumata, Gampi, all these bast fibers are the main raw materials for Japanese papermaking. I think some of you have heard about them before, and there are the features and characteristics of each. From historical point of view, Japanese papers have been so relevant with people's everyday life, so these three fibers came into use in the end. As it shows, most of the Japanese papers in the market is kozo-based paper. So today I talk about kozo more than other materials. So these three raw materials are used for handmade paper, but also for machine-made. Imports of bast fibers were started around the 1950, and they have become a very important source in Japanese papermaking now, because Japanese native materials are getting more difficult to come by. And now it's only 5% or less in the whole market. The local farmers who grow kozo and mitsumata are normally old people, and most of them are in the 70s or over. Plant fibers and wood pulp are also used. Wood pulp became a raw material for Japanese papermaking around 1894. Nowadays, there are quite a few handmade and machine-made Japanese paper containing wood pulp in the market. The following papermaking procedure focused on kozo paper using Japanese kozo. Okay, in spring, new shoots sprout from all the kozo stump. Kozo stems quickly grow as a bush throughout spring. In summer, stems reach more than 1 meter, 40 inches height. In summer, new branches have to be pruned on a regular basis, leaving only leaves on the stems. Farmers or paper makers by themselves do this work very often, depending on how big their kozo fields are. In winter, when leaves fall down, well-maintained kozo has straight stems only. Without pruning, stems have all branches left on them. You can see the difference between the pictures on the bottom, center, and right. The areas where this process is done are limited because this is really time-consuming and painstaking work. Kozo can grow to a height of 2 or 3 meters, 7 to 10 feet, and all stems are harvested between December and January. In northern part of Japan, such as in Niigata or Toyama prefectures, it is done in November before the snowfall begins. In the following spring, new shoots will sprout again from the old stump. All the stems harvested are cut into the lengths of 1 meter, 40 inches, and bundled for steaming. The traditional way of steaming uses a wooden barrel. Modern method uses a cabinet instead, but the theory is the same. They are steamed for 1 to 2 hours. The bark will be shrunken after steaming, exposing the inner stem. Separating the bark is carried out immediately by hand. Twist bark and creating a split. Hold the bark and pull it as one piece. After stripping, the inner stems are used as firewood. The barks are dried under the sun and stored for later use. Okay, please have a look at the left diagrams. Kozo bark consists of outermost layer called kuro, meaning black. The middle layer, ama, meaning epidermis, which is greenish color, and the most inner layer, shiro, meaning white. The barks are prepared into categories depending on the type and quality of paper. Please have a look at the right diagram in the 4 pictures. Kurokawa is leaving all three layers. Nazekawa is leaving the middle greenish layer and white layer. Rokubu, meaning 60%, is leaving a part of the middle greenish layer with white layer. Shirokawa is leaving the inner white layer only. The way they leave the above layers shows the very special features of traditional papermaking area. For example, in Shimane Prefecture making sekishu washi, they leave nazekawa, which makes the result of the paper very strong. The dried barks are pre-soaked in water for a day or longer before fiber preparation. The top image shows the fiber preparation method used in Saitama, the bottom left in Kochi and the right in Niigata. Knife shapes and holding style vary from one place to another. The right image shows the dried bark in the formats of Shirokawa, Nazekawa, and Kurokawa. The kozo from different origins are prepared differently. The qualities also vary. Japanese kozo has all three fiber preparation. Only Shirokawa is exported from Thailand, since it's easier to prepare. Chinese kozo have all three fiber preparation, but the quality is not constant depending on the suppliers, I hear. Paraguayan kozo used to be exported as Kurokawa and Shirokawa. The quality is similar to Japanese kozo, but the distance adds up the cost. So now the import stopped about 6 or 7 years ago. Here, I would like to mention one difference between Japanese native kozo fiber and non-native imported kozo. The trade of Thai kozo was started in 1950. Actually, the origin of Thai kozo was shifted to Laos a long time ago due to the advancement of economic situation in Thailand. But it's still called Thai kozo, and it's sorted out in several grades there. It is said that the highest quality is exported to Japan or used at the local papermaking areas for them to export the paper to Japan and other countries, as Thailand is actually a big paper producing country as well. The difference in climate and soil affect the quality. Because of the tropical climates, often Thai kozo, especially when harvested in rainy season, contains resinous substances and can end up with brown spots in the final paper. Therefore, Thai kozo is equipped with strong alkali in order for the paper makers to make spotless paper, or to bleach the fiber by chlorine or hydrogen peroxide. Okay, now let's go back and continue with the process of the traditional hand paper making. Dried barks are soaked in water for 2 or 3 days before alkali cooking, removing any water-soluble impurities in the fiber. During the alkali cooking, many non-cellulose components such as hemicellulose, lignin, resin, and protein are liquefied by hydrolysis. After 2 to 3 hours, the bark will be softened. And then fiber cooking. There are 4 alkali used for cooking fiber. Soda ash is mild, easier to rinse, and widely available, so it became the commonly used alkali. Caustic soda is very strong and shortens the fiber preparation time. However, it weakens the fibers, and it's often used for raw materials such as imported Thai kozo for the purpose of removing resinous substances in the fibers. And this is used by most machine-made paper mills too. Traditionally, the bark for some papers was naturally bleached by the sun in rivers or on snowbanks. UV rays break down the kozo's coloring, and thereby the bark becomes whiter. This natural procedure requires hard labor, but it's still practiced in some provincial areas. Paper makers became independent of the weather conditions by using chlorine, so the process became so much quicker nowadays. But as you can imagine, it makes the fiber weak, which will affect the paper quality. After the alkali cooking, the bark is rinsed in water. If they were bleached, further rinsing would follow to remove bleaching residues. After rinsing, any impurities are removed by hand. If missed, they will show in the paper. Therefore, handmade papermakers such as Mr. Iwano of Hosho Paper and the papermakers in Mino, or people at Kashiki Paper in Kochi Prefecture, spend hours and days cleaning fiber by hand. The cleaned bark is beaten into fibers, traditionally with wooden sticks by hand, for a few hours. These days, the process has been mechanized. Stampers were introduced in the early 20th century. Also, a machine called Naginata beater was developed in the mid-20th century. It looks like a Hollander beater, but the blades are blunt and they just help fiber separation. Most small-sized paper makers use one of them, depending on the types of washi they make for their customers. During the sheet formation, a slimy extract of natural plants such as Tororo aoi is traditionally added to the vat as neri. This would make for an even fiber dispersion in water and enable fibers to intertwine on the screen, resulting in stronger sheets. But natural neri is easily affected by temperature and viscosity goes away in summer. So nowadays, paper makers use synthetic neri from time to time. Today, synthetic neri, such as polyacrylamide, is commonly used in machine-made washi production. Japanese papermaking bamboo screen is called su, and wooden frame is called the keta. Altogether, they are called Sukita. The keta frame holds the su screen between them. The majority of Japanese paper is made in the flowing method called nagashizuki. Okay, let's take a look at the actual papermaking scene, forming a sheet. The pulp solution is scooped and the excess pulp solution drained out immediately, creating the surface layer. The pulp solution is scooped again, and the sukita is shaken to disperse the fiber evenly and intertwine. The excess solution is drained out. The step is repeated until the desired thickness is obtained. And finally, the excess solution is tossed out from the opposite side with care in order to create the finishing layer. Each paper is formed couched on the paper post behind the paper maker. Individual sheets can be couched directly upon each other without felt. The paper post is left overnight for water to drain naturally, and the excess moisture is further removed under the press slowly. Paper is brushed onto a wooden board, and the boards are placed outside to dry. On a sunny day, it would take from 1 to 3 hours. The paper would have soft texture. Ginkgo tree boards are used for smoother paper. The paper in the image was dried on pine board for the strong wood grain impression. Nowadays, heated stainless steel wool is commonly used. It will take about 2 to 5 minutes, and the paper can be rather crispier. After drying, the finished paper is checked for quality and stacked into a pile as a final production. Then the sheets are packed and delivered to the wholesalers or retailer or their customers, depending on the quantities and the various terms and conditions of business. Okay, now let's see how the history of Japanese paper and export to the West here in North America. This has a lot to do with our company's history. Okay, paper making started in China, and the technique using hemp was transmitted to Japan by a Korean monk in the 7th century. Kozo and Gampi became the main raw materials for Japanese paper making, followed by Mitsumata in the late 18th century. In the mid-16th century, Roman Catholic missionaries were sent to Japan who brought Western paper. Eventually, they started using local Japanese paper. They loved Gampi paper with smooth texture and appropriated hardness. Japan entered the isolation period from the mid-17th century, and the Dutch were the only Europeans permitted to have a trade with Japan. The Dutch East India Company's records include documents that named Japanese paper among their exported goods. A wide variety of kozo-based papers were manufactured in Japan at the time, but the West was more interested in Gampi-based paper. It is said that Rembrandt is the very first foreign artist who used Japanese paper. From about 1647 until his last etching in 1665, Rembrandt printed most of his copper plates regularly on Japanese paper, and he also used the paper for drawing. His prints on Eastern paper look clearly different from those printed on Western paper. The Japanese paper types which Rembrandt used are usually light brown to light yellow and sometimes ivory colored Gampi paper. They are often smooth and shiny, whilst Western paper has a more tough, rough and matte surface. About 200 years later, Japan ended the isolation period in the mid-18th century, and many Japanese artifacts reached Europe. Sir Rutherfield Alcock, British Consul General in Japan, he visited a Gampi papermaking mill and surveyed the Japanese paper. He sent the reports and Japanese papers to the British government. Those papers were displayed at the 1862 International Exhibition in London, along with many other things he collected during his stay in Japan. After Alcock, Sir Harry Parkes was appointed as his successor. With Prime Minister Gladstone's request, he published a government report on the manufacture of Japanese paper with about 400 paper samples. It's called the Parkes Collection and now has been kept in the Victoria and Albert Museum and the Kew Garden in London. A Japanese traditional handmade paper, washi, was displayed at the various international expositions after that and received many awards and its reputation gradually. The washi started to become exported around 1885 and accelerated around 1890 in earnest. Okay, now this is how the word washi was created. During the isolation period in Japan, paper was simply called kami, meaning just paper, or referred to by a specific paper name, such as hoshogami. With the introduction of Western machine-made wood pulp paper in the Meiji period, the term washi, meaning Japanese paper, was created for the paper made in the traditional handmade way. To differentiate, Western machine-made paper was named yoshi, meaning Western paper made by machine. Handmade paper was still in great use in various life scenes in Japan until early 1910, but the first machine-made washi was produced when Ministry of Finance Printing Bureau tried to make Gampi paper using imported machinery in 1874. Manufacture of machine-made washi with Mitsumata and Gampi using a Yankee cylinder dryer was perfected in 1906. So this is when the term became a bit complicated, but it still takes some time for the machines to be able to make paper from the long fiber kozo. On the other hand, like in the West, Japanese manufacturers began to produce yoshi with the ground and the sulfite wood pulp. The government employed machine-made yoshi for school textbooks in 1903, and adoption with wood pulp enabled domestic mass production of yoshi during 1910s. Okay, now let's take a look at the distribution of Japanese paper in North America around this time. The import of Japanese paper started with one company called Japan Paper Company. The founder, Richard Tracy Stevens, made a trip to Japan in 1905 for 10 weeks, visiting many different papermaking studios and mills. And he and one of his staff, Harrison Elliott, had a big influence on Dud Hunter, who later wrote a famous book called Papermaking Pilgrimage to Japan, Korea, and China in 1936. As you see on the left, these are the types of papers that were imported all this time. But due to increasing anti-Japanese feeling towards the war, the name of the company had been changed to Stevens Nelson Company, and then the World War II began. So what was the Japanese papermaking industry like during the wartime? During the World War II, most of the trade stopped and most men and young boys were sent to the battlefields. There were only women, old people, and children left in town. The general staff of the Japanese military ordered almost all the local papermakers to make so-called balloon paper in specific sizes shortly after the Battle of Guadalcanal. So the production for most of the commercial papers was not allowed. Many young women were forced to work in 2 shifts for more than 12 hours a day, making konnyaku paste and applied to each sheet of kozo paper delivered from the papermakers. And they put them together to make large sheets for the giant balloon, paper balloons. 9,300 balloons were launched from November 1944 until March 1945. About 300 balloons bomb were found or observed in America. It is somewhat still unbelievable and a tragedy, but it is actually a proof that the Japanese paper is so durable and tough, especially with konnyaku. As soon as the war ended and my grand uncle Yasumi Moriki came back from the Philippines, he spent a lot of time going to visit many paper makers to ask him to improve the quality of papers by teaching from his experience of paper making. Because in most paper making studios, only women and young inexperienced paper makers were left, and the studios were not clean at all, so they could not make any good paper anymore after making just the balloon papers. He knew what the customers in the West wanted, and once the supply of such high quality papers started, the demand got back on track soon. He received the 5th Order of the Sacred Treasure for this achievement in 1981. Next, here in Japan, a big revolution in the washi industry broke out. A machine with a suspended short wire net system was invented in 1957, developed from a Yankee cylinder, which made it possible to manufacture thin, long kozo, fiber kozo paper. In 1961, the first machine-made thin kozo tengujo paper was produced in Kochi Prefecture. Finally, the production of the long fiber kozo-based paper started by machine in earnest. Let's go back to the US. Okay, although Anders Nelson Whitehead, formerly the Japan Paper Company, were purchased by a few bigger companies in a while and had some administrative issues, they still promoted various handmade papers from Japan and other countries, were serving big customers like you see on the left. Then the woman named Miss Vera Freeman, who later became the manager of the company's imported handmade papers, made an appearance. She made a lot of efforts to build bridges between the paper suppliers and her customers, and her legendary stories had been told by many artists since then. It was in the 70s when Mr. Timothy Barrett contacted Ms. Freeman when he got Fulbright scholarship. She made a contact with Yasumi and to see if there's any possibility of him studying Japanese paper making in Japan. I have heard that Yasumi, together with Shinji, my father, sent many letters to their papermakers, but also public institutions, to give him opportunities to learn how to make washi. Then he spent some time in Saitama and visited a lot of papermakers all over Japan to increase his knowledge about Japanese papermaking. After returning to the US, he published a book called Nagashizuki, The Japanese Craft of Hand Papermaking in 1979, followed by The Japanese Papermaking in 1984. In 1980s, it was a time for big changes in the washi market in North America. While there were some other companies in the US like Aiko's Art Materials in Chicago importing Japanese papers from Japan already, in 1982, Biznanchi Jacoby opened her small shop in Toronto, Canada, after coming back from Japan. She believed in the potential of washi in many artistic expressions from the beginning and decided to focus on just Japanese papers and its products, and became the largest importer of washi after 39 years. Likewise, Hiromi Papers, founded in 1988 in California by Ms. Hiromi Katayama, also deals with many different kinds of Japanese papers, and both have been offering a wide variety of washi through workshops, lectures, and exhibitions now. So compared to Anders Nelson Whitehead time, the wider variety of washi became available in North America. Here, I'd like to introduce to you some of the major applications of Japanese papers. The time is limited, so I will show you just a few, starting with the fine art papers. Washi has been very popular as a material for fine art, and above all, it's used for a lot of printmaking formats. This is a film director, Mr. David Lynch, who is now making lithographic prints at the studio called Eden Paris, where legendary artists like Matisse, Picasso, Chagall used to come and visit. He uses special handmade washi we developed for his lithographic prints. This is Mr. Zetsukato. He's a Japanese artist who has been active internationally. He uses many different kinds of different colors of washi, together with other materials such as tinplate, stone, fabric, polyvinyl chloride with acrylic and oil painting. It's really interesting to see him choosing washi from our stock. Somehow he enjoys exploring the potential of washi, like the Western artists I have seen. Francois Xavier Richard is a famous wallpaper maker and designer based in France. He likes the absorbency and large format of washi and publishes his artworks internationally. These are other examples of washi used in many art forms. Because of its versatility and strength, translucency, and many different colors, sizes, and formats, it makes us feel like the sky's the limit. Here you see many prints, drawing, painting, sculptures, paper cuts, stitch work, and so on. Now let's go to the next. The other major application for Japanese paper is conservation and restoration. I think that this piece, the large drawing of neon paints on thick joined machine-made paper was done by Keith Haring. The jointed sections were delaminating, and there were many losses on the edges. Layers of Japanese papers and wheat starch paste were set down on the separating sections on the back, and losses were filled the same way. The flexible but strong kozo-based Japanese paper made it possible to secure the areas very well. And the piece was very large, so the owner wanted to roll in and out to exhibit. The other example is a recent restoration project that our company got involved. We were asked to give assistance for the selection and supply of Japanese papers. The original cartoon for the famous Raphael's fresco painting of the School of Athens in Vatican has been kept in Milan at Ambrosiana and now being exhibited. After it was looted by Napoleon and taken to France, 2 supports of canvas and paper applied to the work in the late 18th century at the Louvre. But it had separated in several places, partly as a result of later fungal attack. Vinyl glue used during 1960s restoration had also caused warping. 3 layers of Japanese papers and wheat starch were used to reinforce the work. These are some more examples. The first top left is like the same as Raphael's Japanese kodo paper used for lining. The top on the right is very thin Japanese tissue paper used for cleaning up the salt layer, which comes up after some time on fresco painting. The third one and the fourth one are the example of doing the repair for the books and archives of all the Western paper by pasting small pieces of thin Japanese paper. Okay, now let's go to the very final part of this presentation, challenges of hand paper makers. In November 2014, UNESCO decided to include the traditional technique of making Japanese handmade paper to its list of intangible cultural heritage items. The areas where the techniques are recognized are 3 areas mentioned here. They all make kozo papers, but basically all the traditional handmade papers are made in pretty much the same way, regardless of the kind of fiber, if it's only domestic local fiber. So in order to honor them, our customer, the Japanese paper place, called them together, the heritage washi. So it's nice that this technique has been recognized worldwide, but keeping the tradition alive is very tough in reality. Maybe you have seen this chart somewhere before. It shows how many hand paper makers are left according to the year. When you look at the change in these 20 years, you will see the rate of decrease is serious. So we have to see what's happening in the washi industry and the market in Japan and the world. As the variety of washi becomes wider, some problems arise. These are fiber contents for some of the paper products available in the market. And you see there are so many combinations of fibers now. I believe it's fine as long as the makers and suppliers provide all this information openly. But some people use the word washi for something that's made from synthetic fiber and plastic materials, sometimes intentionally. So when you buy any washi, you want to make sure how it is made and what it's made from. Let me just give you one example of the price differences of kozo depending on the origin and the status of each bark. The price of Japanese kozo white bark is 8 to 15 times as much as the price of Thai kozo bark now in the raw material market. So if you think about it seriously, you will see how tough it is being a traditional paper maker and making washi by hand from the local fiber nowadays. I don't have enough time today to talk about all of these things, but maybe I could come back later during the question time if we have time. But these are the issues that we often discuss amongst all our paper makers. So I will only talk about number 2, confusions of washi names. Sekishu, Okawara, Marbury, Kitakato, all these 4 names are very popular amongst many washi users, especially artists. But the truth is that there are a few paper makers who make the similar quality papers, and it's hard for customers to find which one is the original and what they used to get in the market. In our export history to the US and Canada, all these papers have been made by our original hand paper makers and their successors and supplied for a long time, but we didn't register these names as a trademark at all. So similar quality papers started to come into market under the same names in the past few decades. Sometimes you can even find a machine-made paper with artificial decorators. So in order to choose for the quality you would like, it would be good beforehand to ask questions or discuss this matter with the local suppliers or distributors. So what can we do to make the situation any better? Despite the difficult situation, we have been doing our best to support the paper makers, especially whose papermaking tradition has been carried out for a long time as an important part in their local community. I'd like to introduce two families here. First, the Osaki family in Kochi Prefecture. In 2002, the Japanese paper place and we carried out a big project for bringing one papermaking family of 3 generations to the Arctic, where the Inuit artists are making art with washi. Mr. Shigeru Osaki, who received the award, the Contemporary Master Craftsman by the Japanese government already, was in his 80s. So Fumiko, Shigeru's daughter, was the main papermaker in the family. This project was organized when the daughter of Fumiko, Akari, was only 24 years old and just got involved in their papermaking work, somehow no choice. But when Akari witnessed a lot of artists admire their washi and the technique and its tradition, she was so moved and made her decision to become a papermaker and devote her life to it. 19 years since then, Akari was married to a super nice guy living in the same village, and now they have 3 children. Though Shigeru passed away about 8 years ago, that baton has surely been passed on to the next generation. The next is the Kubota family. We have been exporting 6 shubanshi for 3 generations. Mr. Yasuichi Kubota and his son Akira were both awarded Medal with Yellow Ribbon from the Emperor of Japan. And Mr. Tim Barrett had spent a lot of time with them when he was in Japan. There are now only 4 papermakers in Shimane who make authentic sekishu hawashi, and we promote the papers made by Akira's son, So, and his daughter Aya, and also the paper from Nishida family in the same working group. We also now have a big project coming up for the promotion of European markets in the next 3 years. Take action now. In the past few years, I have made a lot of discussions with our traditional hand paper makers. And to start with, we have formed a group in order to take a concrete action together. Now we are unified in our vision for the direction of handmade washi culture and industry, and would like the word washi to be recognized in a correct manner worldwide. So if we all involved in the same paper making, from the traditional way to modernized, we now show everything thoroughly. And we provide all these detailed information to all our customers who request it. So whenever our customers or their customers have any question about the specific paper, we and these paper makers are willing to answer that. If any of the washi suppliers are not willing to provide any of this information, for example, origin of kozo, which is one of the most important factors in terms of deciding price and the quality of the washi, perhaps you should take a step back and wonder why. All our paper makers, especially hand paper makers, have no secret. I give you my word. Within the next year or two, we would like to set up a traceability system to make sure our customers know where the papers come from and how. These paper makers are located in different places from each other. In order to keep each other updated about the situation of their own regions, we have been having Zoom meetings on a regular basis. Especially in the time of global pandemic, we all tend to feel isolated, so it's really nice to receive encouragement from each other. Actually, many of us drink sake and beer every time, so sometimes our talk gets out of hand and endless, but we always have fun. Finally, I would dare to define washi here. After all these topics that I have gone through, everyone may have different ideas and opinions, but these are the factors that I think are all important for the future of washi. And okay, here it is. Washi is a paper made in the local community based on a long-time tradition and technique, and something that will bring positive effects and sustainability to the local industry, as well as to the country of Japan in the long run. Okay, I would like to close my presentation by mentioning something that's really wonderful in this difficult time. On June 23rd, our foreign minister's commendation was awarded to Ms. Nancy Jacoby, founder of the Japanese Paper Place, who is our longtime partner. In 1982, Nancy established the Japanese Paper Place in Toronto, a wholesale and retail distributor of washi. In addition to her business, she has been involved in inspiring fascination with washi amongst many artists and the public in Canada and many countries for about 40 years through workshops, lectures, and exhibitions. Not to mention Nakari from the Osaki family in Kochi, there are many other papermakers who have received encouragement and motivation from her until today. I'm very happy that, her long-time activities and achievements in promoting washi have been recognized by the Japanese government. And I would like to congratulate her on the award and express my gratitude to the excellent staff there as well. Thank you very much, Nancy, and everyone at the Japanese Paper Place. Okay, this is the end of my presentation. Thank you very much for attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Takao.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So if you have any questions, feel free to enter them into the Q&A. Takao, are you ready for questions?
Yes, I think so.
Okay. So one person said there are plantations in Thailand and the Philippines of Japanese kozo. Have you seen or bought any washi made from them? What is the quality of kozo from Thailand and the Philippines like compared to kozo grown in Japan?
You mean that also the seedling was sort of brought from Japan and let it grow, right?
That's what it seems like, yeah.
Well, I don't think anybody has seen it. I have no idea. I'm sorry. Yeah, but actually, it has a lot to do with climate and soil. So I think actually it will change quality. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what about like Thai kozo? How does the quality of Thai kozo compare to the quality of Japanese kozo?
Well, first of all, it has a resin, sort of like always containing. It contains a lot of oil in it, in the fibers. So you have to get rid of it by using a strong alkali solution. So that's a big difference between Japanese kozo and Thai kozo. So, and like in the presentation that I made, there's a big difference in terms of price. So, but the still amount of the usage is so big. So Thai kozo is still, it's really necessary for us to do the business. So knowing the quality and knowing the situation, knowing the price and everything, I think that's really important for the future of washi. Yeah.
So during the pressing process, when you're pressing sheets of paper, how is it that the formed sheets do not stick to each other when placed on top of one another for kuching and pressing?
Yeah, that's a big difference between the Western paper and the Japanese paper, I think. And it's the secret of Tororo Aoi, the Canary formation aid. Not only, it disperses the fibers, intertwine, and make the fiber even in the vats, but also when each sheet of paper is kuched and it's pressed for one day or two, but still it has, as long as it has moisture in the pile, still you can actually take one piece, one by one. So, but once it's dried, then it sticks together. So it's actually a scientific phenomenon. So the toru aoi, once it gets dried and it goes away. So it's really important for the papers to have some moisture in it. Then you can still peel off sheet by sheet.
Great.
So,
someone says, thank you for all of the valuable information regarding the authentic washi papers. Is there a website someone can read more information about washi and to order papers?
Washi and
to order traditional washi paper.
Actually, I don't think there's, well, there are some information like this in Japanese website, but I don't think any information about this, all of this in English right now. But I think gradually it will come up through my customers, like the Japanese paper place. Basically, all my customers have all this information, so they can get it available. So it's just a matter of time. Just please give us some time, and it will be ready. So.
Yeah, with Moriki papers, can customers buy single sheets of paper, or is it only wholesale right now?
The Moriki colors, you mean the Moriki Kozo color paper, you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's now available only through a Japanese paper place because they are they order one color like in a big lot. So basically we do custom orders for them. So if there's any specific color, and please contact the Japanese paper place, and maybe they talk to the many customers, and they order from us.
Yeah, and then as far as follow-up information, maybe there aren't websites that you could point someone to, but are there books for follow-up reading? You mentioned Tim Barrett.
Okay.
Book cover similar information to what you've covered in this lecture. Do you know?
So sorry, could you say it again?
As far as follow-up information on the history of washi, Tim Barrett, you mentioned a book by Tim Barrett.
Yeah. I think our name was mentioned in the Nagashizuki book and the papermaking, but I don't think there's any information available now on the internet. So yeah, maybe I have to talk to Bartlett Sensei about it.
Okay. So someone asked, you mentioned that only older people are growing kozo in Japan. Is there a reason why younger people are not growing kozo?
I think the wage is the big problem. Right now, most of the older people, they have their farms, and they are basically living on a pension. So basically, they don't really have to make a lot of money. But if you really want to make a good living, I mean, enough money, then the price of kozo becomes much more. So, but I think it's just a matter of the market situation. And I guess if we calculate the wage that they are getting right now, probably $3 per hour or something. So because all take, spending a lot of time, through all that process, it's really time consuming. So, but I guess we have to do something about it by getting subsidies from the local governments, or somehow, we have to do something. Otherwise, there's no chance of having a traditional handmade papers anymore. So yeah, that's why we are trying to sort of do in our group, in the foundation. So
okay. So someone else says a really great talk, an informational presentation on washi and traditional papermaking. For conservation, we sometimes see fragments and fibers left in the tissue paper we use for lining and repairs. Do you know if these fragments and fibers would be stable over time, or if they pose a risk to objects, like if they'll promote degradation?
That's a good question. Well, I guess it depends on what the pigments and well, yeah, I mean, it's very difficult question to answer. We have to know what the papers are made, are made of. So I think it depends on the paper, really. Sometimes the label are lost in the cabinet. So I don't know. Sometimes we go there to the conservation institution and we find a drawer, and it's very difficult to identify them. But once the sheets are there, then it's very difficult to identify how it's being made, and what kind of alkali and what kind of pigments are used, or dye stuff is used. So yeah, does that answer your question?
I think that answers the question. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'm gonna read one final question. Then there are some comments that I'll share with you after this webinar. Check out just so you get a sense of the kind things that people have to say. But the final question is, does the group of paper makers that you work with find the demand for their washi flat? Is it growing, or is it diminishing?
Actually, it's growing because we start telling these kind of things honestly and openly, and more people are interested in it. So they have more ideas about how to choose the right paper, appropriate paper. So we are getting a lot of requests and how to buy such a paper, and once the inquiries come from the overseas, and those paper makers forwarded to me, and I contact all our distributors and customers. So I think we are getting more and more inquiries about that. Yeah.
Okay, I'm sending a couple folks links to the Japanese paper place. Because a few people were asking about where to purchase your paper.
Okay, good. Just Google Japanese paper, and then they will come up in the first, I guess.
So thank you everyone for being here today. This is the last lecture in the Global Papermaking series. Takao, this was a great finale, so informative. It's been great to coordinate with you and learn more about the history of Japanese papermaking.
Thank you. Thank you. I had a good time.
Good. Thank you everyone for being here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And we'll see you very soon.
Good night.